crisis on our hands.
AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. For years it seemed like science fiction, something far in the future that we wouldn't need to worry about. However, more and more experts in the field of AI are now very clear. Artificial General Intelligence is not decades away. It will be here soon.
I think, I would say probably like 3 to 5 years.
Who knows how many years? I tend to believe a fewer number of years. I think we're sort of in the 2 to 4.
Listen, you have AI experts telling you this. 3 to 5 years, 2 to 3 years. Most of the jobs will be taken by robots and AI. And if you think I'm lying, I'm not lying. That's why I say, if you're going into college right now, and if you're considering picking a college field, a work field, please think about it carefully. Because you might be entering into a field that the jobs might be taken. So I say be careful.
It does make you think that we'll get there by 2026 or 2027.
He believes that we maybe, I guess by now, have 4 years left.
Yet we are not prepared. What will happen to the millions of jobs, from truck drivers to graphic designers, when there are machines that can perform the same tasks better, faster, cheaper and safer than humans? When people are laid off but still have bills to pay, how do we respond? What does it mean to live in a world after AGI?
I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Again, like I said, I don't even know how they're going to take care of all these people. Because when you have people who are bored, who need to make money, that is a bad situation to have. Because people will do things to feed their families now. And they will do things in GTRP that may not be the most legal. So that's how you will have to have universal income, because I don't know how these people are going to have money to take care of themselves. But that's the other thing too. How are they going to get all this money? Because that's a lot of money every year. 200,000. That's a lot of money. So again, that's a lot of people. This stuff will affect everything.
Since AI first emerged in the 1950s, achieving artificial general intelligence has always been the field's ultimate objective. It would be the technology to reshape humanity's future completely. Just a couple of years ago, many experts thought we would have to wait for multiple decades for real AGI. However, progress in AI is happening so quickly that they now have adjusted their expectations. And it's probably closer than most people realize.
I would say that we are less than 3 years from that point.
Definitely within the next 5 years.
To most people, somewhere between 2 to 5 years sounds like a relatively short time. So let's examine why most experts think such a short time is likely. So many of the leading researchers are making these claims because the models have improved incredibly quickly. Let's look at just the past couple of years. Between 2019 and 2023, we went from GPT-2, which could write simple sentences that mostly made sense, to GPT-4, which could solve math equations on a high level, write code and score higher on university exams than most students. In a short period of 4 years, we went from a model with the capabilities of a toddler to a model that functions as a brilliant college student. Most people were shocked about the great leap. However, a couple of the best researchers have already seen this coming, because they recognized the scaling laws. That is, AI becomes consistently better if you keep increasing certain variables, such as computational power and model size. These trends have accurately predicted the progress in AI we have seen thus far. The researchers who follow these trend lines believe we are at the beginning of another big leap in performance. Except this time, it could take us from a smart high schooler to expert level or PhD level abilities around 2027 or 2028. So let's take a look at these trends and how the AI models are getting improved. A decade ago, the largest AI models had computing resources roughly equivalent to a small university lab. However, today, companies are investing tens of billions of dollars in training larger and more powerful AI models. In just a handful of years, we have scaled the raw computing power behind AI by millions. Over the past couple of years, AI has proven itself more and more without progress slowing down. And that is why companies are willing to make even bigger bets and train with even more compute. Recently, OpenAI announced the Stargate project, which will be the most significant AI project yet. Over the next 4 years, they intend to invest $500 billion into building new AI infrastructure.
A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very quickly, moving very rapidly.
Beyond just adding more computing power to AI models, researchers are also finding ways to make them learn more efficiently. Every so often, a new training strategy comes along to get a better AI model for the same amount of computation. Teaching AI smarter methods is almost like discovering a new way to study. You are getting better results in half the time. Our training methods get to 100 times more effective every couple of years, and this kind of progress adds up. But most important of all, next to more computing power and algorithmic improvements, we actually start giving the models the tools they need. Even when a model is already quite smart in its raw form, we often tie its hands behind its back without actually realizing it. For instance, older AIs were forced to answer math problems immediately without writing down their steps, which meant they messed up simple calculations. Then, we let them think on paper by showing their step-by-step reasoning, and performance suddenly shot way up. More of these improvements, such as allowing models to look things up on the web, could potentially unlock huge hidden capabilities. It is important to note that a significant part of the leap towards AGI is not just a smarter chatbot, but a system that can genuinely function as a colleague or co-researcher. Once you give the models the opportunity to conduct in-depth research and use various tools and software, you get something that much more closely resembles a human. It would be able to onboard like a new employee, familiarizing itself with the company, researching information, creating long-term plans, and completing tasks entirely on its own. There is still an enormous amount of potential hidden behind the simple chatbot interface, and unlocking this gives rise to a drop-in remote worker who could quickly take over the work of countless people. So, taking a step back, some researchers were not surprised by this leap from GPT-2 to GPT-4 because it's essentially part of the same ongoing trend. A bit more than a decade ago, AI learned to recognize animals in photos. Next came GPT-2, which could form semi-plausible sentences, and then GPT-4 scores higher than most students on many standardized tests. Recently, new reasoning models came out, which make even fewer errors, and progress in AI has continued. If these trends continue like this, for the next couple of years, we will likely have AGI by 2027 or 2028. So you don't need to believe in science fiction for us to achieve AGI, you only need to trust that the trends will continue for another couple of years, and there are absolutely no signs of progress slowing down. Of course, there are uncertainties. However, the past 10 years have shown that whenever there was a supposed wall, the AI researchers always found a solution. And this is why these experts do everything they can to tell everyone that AGI is coming in a couple of years. Because they know that AGI won't just be another technology. A general intelligence will change the world as we know it today. Because if AI reaches a level at which it can do the tasks a human can, but then better, faster, cheaper and safer than humans, mass automation will be inevitable.
The amount of change we're going to see over the next 5 years, 10 years, will dwarf everything that's happened over the last 30. If you're in the Fortune 500,
I will say this though, if you do plan on making a lot of money in these coming up years, please start investing in AI technologies and getting into AI, because this future is here. Like all this stuff that you're seeing right now, this is literally affecting everything. So do understand, if you want to become a doctor, doctors are currently being replaced by robots, arms, in surgery. Teachers, AI programs. I mean, like all this stuff that you could think of is being replaced. All of it, 100%, probably not. But with the coming advancements in technology, I think a lot of the jobs will. The The checkout people, like let's say you're going to the grocery store, right? You're seeing more and more of them become self checkout. Not clerks. Clerks will be tablets now. The people where you order at McDonald's, and you're gonna go order your food and get your food. Those are gonna be replaced by screens and machines. Dropping off the food, delivering it. So like, just be very noteful of this technology that's coming out, and do understand that no matter how much you protest, no matter how much you fight against this technology will come. There's already been patents put in place. There has already been scheduled. So like this technology is coming, whether you want it to come, whether you don't want it to come, or whether you're iffy about it. It's gonna come, so you just need to make the most out of it. Pause. But this technology is going to be here, so you just need to make the most out of it. Because no matter what petitions y'all have, what protests y'all have, the technology of AI is coming, or is still going to be arriving.
If you're an S&P 500 company, if you're in the Dow 30, right? If you're one of the bigger companies, you already know this. And in talking to a lot of these big companies, they know their workforces.
I want you to imagine two competing companies. The first is a typical e-commerce fulfillment center as we know it today. People walk the aisles, scan barcodes, and pick and pack the orders. Therefore, the quality and speed depend entirely on their energy and focus. The second company, however, integrates AI. Robots move through the aisles, guided by a central intelligence. They never tire, never pause for lunch, and they are never ill. This company does the job with perfect accuracy. It runs 24/7, has no labor costs, and therefore can lower prices. The first company just cannot compete against this combination of quality, speed, and lower price. Therefore, if they do not automate too, it will disappear. In the end, there are a couple of things we know for sure. Companies seek maximum profit at minimum costs. AGI drastically reduces cost by replacing human labor, and companies that do not automate become uncompetitive and won't survive. Therefore, companies don't really have a choice. Automation becomes economically mandatory, not optional. Even if they want to keep humans, they can't stay competitive with other companies that do automate with AI. Some individuals who think this isn't desirable might say, well, let's make some federal laws that regulate and prevent AI automation. I will come back to the question of whether this is desirable or not, but despite that, it won't be stoppable. Because the same scenario we have seen between companies also applies between nations. So let's say the United States created laws against AI automation, then countries that use AI automation.
And look, see, do know this. No matter if your country outlaws it, China, Russia, India, these countries ain't gonna do this. And in GTRP, they use labor over there. So if they know that there's technology out there that can boost their economy, whatsoever, boost their technology, they gonna use it. They gonna use it. Which puts the United States at risk of, losing their pedestal, when it comes to technology. Technology is really important. A lot of things now, a lot of vehicles use AI. So if you outlaw it and make laws against it, now you're putting yourself at a disadvantage against your competitors, Russia and China, which can now influence the world and can get power. So yeah.
Will gain a competitive advantage, and countries that do not innovate will be left behind. We have seen this already in the past with the Industrial Revolution. Some countries embraced it and got ahead, and the ones who did not fell behind.
See? The ones who embraced the change got ahead, and the ones who did not embrace the change and rejected it fell behind. If you learned in school about the Industrial Revolution, the main countries who benefited from it are the United States and Great Britain, especially the United States. The assembly line, all of that. Revolutionized how things were made. And if you look at, even countries in Europe who were influenced by the British, they got ahead because of the Industrial Revolution. And if you look at third world countries who weren't really into, industrialization and stuff like that, they fell behind. And they became colonies. They became owned. Influenced by the influencers. Because they didn't decide to change.
Same will be true this time. Technological progress really can't be stopped. Because if there is a more efficient way to get the same outcome, markets will always favor that method. And this time, more efficient means without humans. The AGI revolution will be fundamentally different compared to all other revolutions we have seen before. The reason why humans currently sit at the top of the hierarchy is not because we are the fastest, the largest or the strongest. We are at the top because we are the smartest.
Humans, biologically, scientifically, are to where they are now because we're the smartest. Humans are at the top of the food chain. No matter what anybody says, human beings are at the top of the food chain when it comes to species. I don't care if you say, oh, well, if you put a human against a lion, no. Because if you put a lion in front of an elephant, just one singular lion, the lion's going to get trampled. It's going to get crushed. One lion cannot take down an elephant. So you can make up scenarios all in your head all day long. But I view the world as a globe, not as it's flat. So in that, as what I'm saying is, I understand the reality that we live in today. Humans as a whole run this planet. If we are at the lowest of the food chain, did you know some species of animals today can go extinct with us if we put out the call? If you said, hypothetically speaking, this species $1 million to anybody who takes out as much species as they can, this species is going to go extinct the minute when you put that call out in GTRP. And this just goes to show you humans as a whole at the top of the food chain. We run this planet. This is our world. That's kind of cocky. But what I mean to say is we're at the top of the food chain. So, yeah.
Inventions we have made, from the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution, have ensured we have had to exert less physical effort. But human intelligence has always been needed this far. Now that AI systems are performing these cognitive tasks increasingly efficiently, we are no longer the only intelligent beings anymore. And we are just at the beginning. Many people have already been replaced, but that's nothing compared to what's yet to come. Of course, many people are still skeptical about the number of jobs that will be replaced. They think that AI will only take on a couple of roles, such as translators, graphic designers, and customer service. But because of its true generality, if AGI gets trained right, there's virtually no profession it cannot learn to do. Accountants, lawyers, journalists, even radiologists, all of them are within its reach. That is what makes AGI fundamentally different from all other technologies. Take for example the financial sector. It has always been filled with highly talented individuals at calculating and analyzing numbers. What used to take days of hard work for a highly trained analyst is now done by AI in a fraction of the time. The same is happening in software development. AI is already generating code much faster and often much more accurately compared to human programmers.
Getting good at programming very fast. As I saw on, typical real-world programming tasks, models have gone from 3% in January of this year to 50% in October of this year.
Ultimately, there is not a single job that AGI can't possibly learn. Jobs that need a physical component can now be done through robots with a lot of precision. During medical operations, one might expect that surgeons are irreplaceable, but robotics makes extremely precise operations possible. Complex operations can be performed with unparalleled precision because of the combination of AI and robotics, which in turn significantly decreases the number of mistakes and complications that occur. It is not difficult to imagine a day when a robot surgeon executes specific operations entirely on its own. One of the frontier AI robotics companies is Figure. Here is a short clip of two of their robots that perform quick tasks on a single neural net. This is quite impressive already. Just 2 weeks ago they released a new video introducing natural walking. It is not there yet, but it's not difficult to see where this is going. And they are not alone. Other robotics companies such as Tesla and Boston Dynamics are innovating rapidly too. Of course, nobody knows precisely how things will unfold. There might be a scenario in which at first, licensed professionals like pilots and doctors resist automation due to regulation.
And like I said, whether they resist, they can resist as much as they want. It's gonna delay it, but it's still gonna come. And I'm not saying, this to force anybody. I'm just saying, like, dude, no matter how much you protest, these jobs will be taken by AI. There's nothing you can do about it. This stuff has gotten too big. There's too much patents. There's too much inventions on it for it not to be put into use. So that's what I'm trying to say. Well, that's what you guys gotta know. No matter how much y'all protest, this stuff is still gonna come, and this stuff is still gonna happen.
In the short term, because in these cases, there are trust issues and especially many moral questions that come with it, such as who's responsible if a surgery goes wrong or a self-driving car crashes. But historically, once technology consistently proves itself safer, cheaper and better, regulations will inevitably adjust. If an intelligent system can perform surgeries with much less error, proving itself 10 or 100 times safer and resulting in much fewer casualties, but someone cannot use it because we haven't figured out who's responsible, when will that become immoral? So, a few jobs might survive in the short term if we cannot determine who is responsible. But still, if you take these jobs out of the equation, the vast majority of jobs will succumb to AGI quickly, making the vast majority of humans redundant in the labor market. So, we know that AGI will arrive soon, and it will affect the majority of jobs in our economy. Then, what should we do about it?
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. What to do about mass unemployment? This is gonna.
That's the thing. You cannot have a mass of people who need to feed their family and who have a lot of time on their hands. That's when funny stuff starts to happen. And I'm not lying about it. When people are in desperate need and have to feed their family and have to take care of things, and they have a lot of time on their hand and they got nothing to lose, they gonna do some stuff. So, and here's the thing about universal income. Where do you get the money for that? There's 330 million Americans. If most of the population needs money, how do you get that money? And you can't just say billionaires, because they know the tax code like this. You can't just take the money from them. And if you go against regular citizens, that's a lot of taxes. That's a lot of deductions. So I'm just confused on how you gonna take care of all these people. The military. This is crazy. This technology is insane. This is why I say, if you are listening to this right now, please, 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 if you're in college, get into IT, look into AI, because this stuff is the future. I understand if you want to go into historic studies and stuff like that, but go into AI, go into IT. This stuff is the future. Instead of putting your child and putting them in football and training them to become a star football player their whole life, train them in AI. Because what happens after that 8-10 years and, they're done playing? They got to still make money because they're going to lose it to taxes and inflation and a whole bunch of other stuff. You still going to want to live lavish. So what happens? You got to train them in IT. So to any parent, anybody, please get into technology. Please get into AI, because I guarantee you, this stuff is going to get... It's only going to get big. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, imagine in 10, 20 years what the world's going to look like with AI, AGI, ASI, stuff like that. Basically, man, This is why I say, please, 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 get into IT, get into AI. I understand you want to, you might have a passion in art and stuff. I understand that. But if you get into IT and AI, you don't have to be threatened by the new AI upcoming artist. You can open up your own company and boost your own self up, because now you got the brain, you got the paper to show you that you can do that, and you got the money. I always hear the job market is really tough, and I always question, what job market are you in? I'm not saying it's not tough. I'm saying, what market are you in? Because I'm going to tell you why it's really tough. A lot of the jobs are being taken by robots. That's why. And a lot of these companies, they need money, and people keep asking for raises. So something's going to have to burst. If you know as a company, you are in need for money, and you have a lot of employees who keep unionizing. I'm not saying, striking and, needing more money. Hey, I'm not saying this is right. I'm telling you what is going to happen. That robot don't need any money. That robot doesn't need any breaks. That robot doesn't need and have any needs. That robot just wants to work. Or is just programmed to do its task mainly. And so that's what I'm confused. I'm concerned. Nurses, doctors, teachers. I think even in 10, 20 years, we're going to see construction workers, all those hard manual labor trade jobs, robots. They got the technology. This is why I say, how are you going to carry all these people? Where are you going to get the money for this universal income? Because that's a lot of money. And if you're talking $100,000 to $200,000 a year, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying there's no hope, but what I'm saying is, right now, if you see an opportunity to boost yourself and your life up, do it. Please do it. Because you could always make money, but now is a great time to start getting in investments. I understand you want to go stunt for the gram. Take the money, go into crypto, and think about some Bitcoin. Think about starting up a company. You can go in the S&P 500. You can go into stocks. Make sure you're putting your money to where it can grow. There's too much people who get $1 million, $50 million, and then they go broke. I heard about this a lot, and it's more common than you think, because they didn't know what they were doing, and the money wasn't put into a good foundation. So when you do get money, I recommend, to keep your money growing and getting, bigger and bigger and bigger, make sure you have a business. Passive income, making income. Every billionaire, every millionaire, they have several streams of income. Number 2, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Please, if you have 50 million, don't put 50 million in the bank. Please don't do that. Oh no. First of all, if you try to withdraw that money from the account, the bank is probably going to freak out and shut down. Now, probably just exaggerating, but they can't give you it right away. You're going to have to wait. Second of all, inflation will eat your money. Not eat away at it, eat your money. You will go, how did I spend $7,000 while talking? That's going to be your reaction. And don't put all your money in one account. You take the money, you spread it out, do some other things with it. Please don't. Have some cash with you. Have some items, some stocks, maybe some crypto that appreciates up in value. Put your money into things. You have to spread out your money. Like I said, put it into business. Put it in other things. When you have money, the thing about it is you have to learn how to keep it, maintain it, grow it. Money to people. They get the money, spend it, lose it, don't have none. How do you think all the ball players, for 2 years, they live in lavish, going to parties, man, new car, new crib, all this stuff, stoning everybody. What happens after that 2 years? No more money. Now they eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch. No more filet mignon. It's flaming freaking Welch's jelly. That's why I say, when you have money, please be smart about it. If there's an opportunity for you to take it right now and you're young, go take it. Don't focus on that girl. Don't focus on that guy. Go take it. They're always going to be around. There's always more. Just go take it.
Be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
One possible solution to mass unemployment and the loss of income that comes with it is UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Like I said, that's good. That's cool. But people don't know. Like, okay, UBI, that's a good idea. Where do you get the money for that? That's a lot of money. And for how long are you doing that for? For people to get on their feet. And then you got to worry about people abusing the system. And people will deliberately stay on Section 8, other, social systems like that to help get people on their feet. They will deliberately stay on those systems so they can save money. Or not have to spend any, I should say. You have people who will stay in those systems. That's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money, man. So how are you going to do that while having to take care of roads, schools, the military? All this stuff is expensive, man. Like, where do they get the money for this? I don't know, man. Where do they get the money? That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. I don't know where and how.
Universal basic income is the idea that everyone in society, regardless of income or background, receives a fixed sum of money each month. Think for example of $1,000 each month for every adult. No conditions are attached and you're entirely free to decide how to spend the money. It might look revolutionary, but the concept is definitely not new. Historically, UBI has had supporters from the economic left and the economic right, including Milton Friedman and Martin Luther King. Both men believed that UBI could simultaneously fix economic inequalities and improve government inefficiencies. Recently, Andrew Yang popularized UBI again through his 2020 presidential campaign, in which he highlighted the increasing risk of automation-driven unemployment. His campaign led to new public discussions surrounding UBI, but unfortunately he did not succeed in winning the nomination. However, because of AI, the discourse around universal basic income is getting more and more momentum. UBI is more relevant than it's ever been, because more people are realizing that AGI will be able to perform nearly any human job. If that happens, billions of people will lose their primary source of income, and this leads to all kinds of economic and social instability. Therefore, a solution like UBI becomes necessary. And that is exactly why OpenAI, a non-profit closely tied to Sam Altman and OpenAI, has launched one of the biggest studies on universal basic income.
We have a major change to get through. And we, all of us, the people that work on technology, I think it's our responsibility, or at least we're certainly going to be held responsible by the people whose lives we change as AI rolls out.
The question that has always surrounded UBI in the past was, who will pay for this? Let's look at the United States. If you give every American citizen above the age of 18 $1,000 every month, that will cost around $2.5 trillion a year.
Who has that money, bro? Like I said, I don't even know if they're... and if you do UBI, you're going to have to... Because, they already have unemployment. Section 8, who's paying for this? $2.9 trillion and the population is on the rise? Oh, yeah. That's more than $3 trillion they're going to have to be spending every year. Who has this money? The government has to already pay for a lot. They have to build new roads, fix cities, all this other stuff. Have money for the military and technological advancements. Hey, man, that's a lot of money to be spending. Is this even good for the economy?
And even then, it is still far from a livable wage. However, this all changes with the rise of AGI.
So, when politicians talk about universal basic income, it's always about cost. How can we possibly afford this?
How could you? This is realistic. $200,000, like, who's paying for this? We're not talking about taking care of one single human being. This is a lot of people you're taking care of. $3 trillion for UBI. I'm not saying I'm against UBI. I'm saying, how are you going to pay for it, though? Because to get UBI is taxes. But if you have a large portion of the population who needs work, how are they going to pay the taxes? And if they're doing activities that they shouldn't be doing, I don't think they're going to be paying anything. Except for the car note and the mortgage, maybe. And I don't, basically not even that. That's my point. And if the government's paying for that, that's a lot of money out of the economy and fixing up schools, roads, houses. I don't know. That's a great question. And how would you pay for it? And you would have.
Can this ever make economic sense? And I think this is one of the stupidest arguments in the world. If the AI really does come and take all the jobs, it will do that because it can do them for free. And so the cost of a really good quality of life will go down a huge amount. Factor of 10, maybe factor of 20.
Because AI can create a lot of abundance, the labor cost with AGI is basically negligible. And therefore the costs of certain goods will fall to an incredibly low level, essentially to the costs of raw materials and energy. Economists estimate that prices could drop 10 or 20 times compared with today, making $1,000 a month after more like what is $20,000 right now. Things like universal high income make much more sense in that light. But universal basic income won't happen overnight. The government will become increasingly important as we move into the AGI era. As many people will lose their jobs and income, we cannot expect companies to take care of redistributing their wealth and giving up the earnings they have gathered with the help.
And if y'all watched my video the other day, we talked about this. It was standards from the 1950s to standards of living now. This is not 1940, everybody's coming home from World War II and fighting in the war. These companies, like, dude, like, bro, I don't know if y'all understand how these companies operate now. This is not 1946. This is 2000. I don't know.
AI automation.
Must be the war.
Because companies' main goal is profit maximization, not societal welfare. Expecting voluntary redistribution of wealth from these companies is unrealistic. They have very little incentive to do so. And therefore the government needs to step up. It is their responsibility to provide stability and welfare. And therefore they must regulate by redistributing economic gains fairly. This won't be easy, but the stakes are incredibly high. We could end up in an age of abundance, but only if we prepare, and societal nets are created that manage the transition into the AGI era. AGI is coming soon, and the economic change that comes with it raises a lot of philosophical questions. We might be the first generation that is going to live in a truly unique time. One might even ask if money will even be relevant in a post-AGI society. If AGI enables us to...
Money has been relevant since time started. Since there was a civilization, there has been a form of currency. Money was always there and is always going to be here. Money is money. So that could be USD, pesos, freaking rocks, and silver. It was always here and it will always be here after. How else do you think people are going to buy things? This is what I mean. How would you, okay, let's say the cost does go down. Wouldn't people be greedy and start buying everything? Like, wouldn't you have to put like quantity, like you can only buy this at a time? Like, I don't know. And then how would people even get stuff? Because I don't think you want to have this stuff for free, because the company got to make money. The company has to have revenue in order to keep the company alive. So how does this stuff work?
Get almost everything for the cost of energy and raw materials, what function will money even have? Because in the end, money functions primarily as an exchange of scarce resources. And that is why other alternatives are also proposed, such as universal basic compute. In this case, each citizen receives guaranteed access to computational power. Instead of receiving money, people own a piece of AGI's processing power, allowing everyone to create value or products independently. This might be a far-fetched scenario, and only time will tell how everything is going to unfold exactly. However, the fact that these topics are considered seriously illustrates the enormous effect this technology will have on the economy and the value of labor. But there is an even more important question. If AGI automates our jobs in the near future, and we do succeed in finding a solution like UBI in order to tackle the problems of a changing economic order, then what? Imagine waking up tomorrow to realize your jobs and goals might not be relevant anymore because AGI handles everything. How then would you redefine your purpose, happiness, and maybe even your identity?
Exactly. Your happiness, purpose, and identity come from within. I just said this. When you go in that ground and everybody buries you, who goes in that ground? You. When you came out your mama, who came out your mama? Just you. So your life is your life. So you decide what is right and what is wrong. So you can decide what makes you happy and what you want out of life, because it's your life. No one else controls you but you. All your problems or things that you think is in between your ears and above your shoulders. It's in your head. So what I mean to say is, your happiness shouldn't come from a job. You see this with a lot of football players after they retire. When they retire, a lot of them have identity issues. They start spiraling and doing things that are out of their character because they don't know who they are anymore. Because their whole identity, their whole life was football, football, football. I'm a football player. I'm this. When football's over, a piece of them is kind of left over there because they don't know who they are. You got to find specialty and happiness within you, because you beat out a lot of people to get here. And if you took health class, you know what I mean. You beat out a lot of people to get a spot on this planet. That's a lot of people to beat out. So you need to find, what's so special and what's amazing about yourself. And that just comes with thinking about, and thinking and isolating and going to quiet places and thinking to yourself and having time to yourself to decide, what is important to you. What do you want? So all of it comes from within. Self-power, self-worth, all these things are so important. It's so important. Worry about yourself.
Throughout our entire history, humanity has always been working to survive, whether that was through hunting, farming, or by earning money through work. Surviving has always given us a purpose and a direction in our lives. But after the AGI revolution, it might all be different. This purpose is taken care of, leaving us in a void that forces us to create a new purpose. For the first time in history, our goals have not already been decided for us. We now have the opportunity to set them ourselves. Even though this existential void is frightening, it could also mean unprecedented freedom, in which we focus on creativity, community, and exploration. Intuitively, we all have a first reaction to hearing that AGI will change everything, and humans naturally resist change. However, there is a tremendous upside too. The rise of AGI can free people from doing tedious, repetitive, and dangerous work. Even in first world countries, many people still work monotonous and tough jobs and live for their time off. But that pales in comparison to second or third world countries in which the working conditions are much worse. In many developing countries, people have to work endless hours, have to do incredibly dangerous work, and child labor is still being used. It will be this group that will benefit the most from the AGI revolution. Whether it is 12-hour days in unsafe factories or mines, or just repetitive office jobs that offer no fulfillment, AGI can handle them efficiently and safely, so that humans can do whatever they truly want. By embracing change and seeing it for what it actually is, AGI might be the technology that will free us from our chains and lead us into a world in which we no longer look at GDP as our most important metric, but rather at the quality of life, fulfillment, and flourishing of humans. Nobody knows exactly how all of this will unfold. However, one thing is certain: many things will change this decade. Because, as we have seen, AGI is not something that will come in a distant future, It is quickly becoming a reality, and it will be here in a couple of years. Its impact on jobs, economies, and our purpose as human beings will be immense. But it's always important to remember that the future isn't something that happens to us. It is something we build. AGI hands us the tools to end danger and poverty, to shift from mere survival to genuine human flourishing. But tools are only as good as the hands that wield them. Today, we do face a choice. We can either automate injustice or amplify opportunity. We can cement all divides or create a shared prosperity.
Wow, y'all. This video also seems interesting. AI in the next phase of evolutionary progress. Now, I do want to say this. The start of humanity is sometimes unknown because a lot of scientists think we came from, monkeys and cavemen, to some religious people saying that we came from Adam and Eve, to human beings, that we were always this way. Now, I don't know. That's a very great question. But Rob Hoff, shout out to you, man. 700 subscribers. This is amazing, bro. Let's watch another video, though.
Artificial intelligence is the next phase of evolutionary progress. The birth of artificial life.
Now, I do want to say this. Have you guys ever played Cyberpunk? I think that, in the evolutionary chain, I think we're gonna have cyber in our bodies, and we'll be able to have not superpowers, but certain abilities. Yeah, I think we'll have cyber implants.
It's inevitable, but what does this mean for us? How will we give rise to a new species? And the evidence suggests that this might all happen much sooner than most people think. To understand how AI is the next phase of evolutionary progress, we need to take a step back and closely examine how we got here. The universe began 13.8 billion years ago with the Big Bang. Fast forward 9 billion years and our planet Earth formed, allowing life to begin. It took another 3 billion years for life to evolve from single-celled organisms to a wide variety of complex forms. Fish swam the oceans, reptiles roamed the land, and eventually mammals and primates appeared. Around 3 million years ago, our ancestors started making tools. By 1.5 million years ago, they had mastered fire. And just a few 100,000 years ago, they developed language. These breakthroughs led to the rise of permanent settlements and the agrarian years. Forward 9 billion years and our planet Earth formed, allowing life to begin. It took another 3 billion years for life to evolve from single-celled organisms to a wide variety of complex forms. Fish swam the oceans, reptiles roamed the land, and eventually mammals and primates appeared. Around 3 million years ago, our ancestors started making tools. By 1.5 million years ago, they had mastered fire. And just a few 100,000 years ago, they developed language. These breakthroughs led to the rise of permanent settlements and the agrarian revolution. From there, humanity advanced with writing, the philosophical revolution, the printing press, the dawn of science, the steam engine, computers, the internet, and more recently, machine learning and deep learning. And now, we are at the start of the AI revolution. So why do we keep progressing? As humans, we always strive to find more efficient ways to do everything. And this has of course a lot to do with our evolution and natural selection. For instance, groups of people who were innovative, created language and mastered fire, had higher chances of survival compared to those who didn't. Because of that, through millions of years of natural selection, we became a species that could use our brains to come up with all sorts of clever ideas that increased our chances of survival. And even though today, our survival does not depend on the strive to be innovative anymore, it is still programmed into our behavior. And this drive has led to countless technological advancements over the centuries. However, we can also look at this process not just from a human perspective, but from an even larger cosmological perspective. Over time, more complex systems and structures are created. And this happens because of two fundamental processes, entropy and complexity. Entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness. In simple terms, it means that
measure of disorder, randomness. Learned that in physics. Let's go.
Things naturally tend to move towards chaos and disorganization. For example, imagine an ice cube. At first, it's solid and structured, but as it melts, it becomes water, which is fundamentally more disordered. Complexity, on the other hand, refers to systems that are highly organized and have many interconnected parts working together. Think of a beehive. Thousands of bees work together in a highly organized system to maintain the hive. Complexity is about many parts working together in a coordinated and organized manner. Even though entropy generally increases, leading to more disorder, certain areas of the universe can become more organized and complex. Our biological evolution is just one example of this natural tendency towards complexity and efficiency. But so is our technological progression. From simple tools to complex AI, each innovation can build upon the previous one, creating more order and even more complex systems. With the fundamental processes of entropy and complexity in mind, we can see that this progression is not just a human endeavor, but a continuation of the universe's natural tendency to create more ordered and complex structures. Because of this, we can see our technological innovations not just as separate from nature, but just as the latest steps in a process that began with the birth of the universe. So by understanding this progression, we can find peace in knowing that we are not straying away from nature. Instead, with whatever we are building, we are actively participating in the cosmic pattern. This is all an inevitable outcome of the universe's relentless drive towards higher states of complexity and order. So by understanding that we are not the end of this process, and that complexity will continue to increase, we can begin to wonder where it will go next. History shows us that each technological innovation builds upon the last, and therefore, we can see ourselves merely as a vehicle through which the next phase of complexity is emerging. As Marshall McLuhan put it, man becomes, as it were, the sex organs of the machine world. We don't know exactly what will come next, but it will probably look back at us just like we look back at our ancient ancestors and the simplest forms of life. Homo sapiens are not the end. We are still evolving, still driving forward the creation of new forms of complexity. Therefore, humanity's purpose might be to birth or create these new life forms, which will eventually transcend our current biological constraints, creating a future where complexity and intelligence reach levels we can hardly imagine. This could be how species evolve, and just because we are using technology this time doesn't mean it wasn't meant to be this way. This isn't just speculation about the distant future. We are actively working on this right now. Just look at the progress that has been made in AI. It becomes clear that it won't take long until AI can outperform humans in most tasks and eventually rise to the top of the complexity ladder. Today, we stand on the brink of breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, robotics, and genetic engineering. We are laying the foundation for a new form of life. These technologies have the potential to boost each other, creating an accelerating cycle of technological explosion. We cannot even imagine what will come next in the coming decades. Even though some people try to stop or resist these developments, claiming that they are not natural, we must not see AI as inherently different from us, just like us and the rest of our creations and inventions. It is simply a continuation of cosmic evolution. Therefore, we shouldn't fear artificial intelligence as the next step of life on this planet. But this does not mean there are no risks involved. A good outcome isn't guaranteed, and we do need to be careful. There are still many ways this can go wrong, potentially leading to stable dictatorships, autonomous weapons, and significant privacy invasions. The decisions we make have a big impact on our future. And even though it's a natural process, it is still us, humanity, that will decide on how we give rise to this new form of intelligence. But how will we give rise to a new species? We are not great at predicting what will happen next. However, it seems inevitable that we have to make some very important decisions. And one stands out in particular. Should we develop artificial life independent from us? Or should we integrate these technologies into our bodies, evolving into cybernetic organisms? In the summer of 2016, a 22-year-old Noland Arbal was swimming with his friends, but what should have been a memorable experience turned into a life-changing disaster. He misjudged the depth of the water and dove into a shallow area. The impact was devastating, causing a severe spinal cord injury that left him paralyzed from the shoulders down. At that moment, Noland knew that his life would never be the same again. Simple daily activities became monumental challenges. Unable to move his arms and legs, he was
I think he's the one who got the Neuralink chip. I think he's the one who got the Neuralink chip. Yeah, the Neuralink.
Now completely dependent on others to take care of him. Despite this situation, Noland kept hoping that someday things would get better. Then, in September 2023, Noland received a phone call that changed his life. One of his best friends called him to say that Neuralink was looking for someone who was paralyzed to test its new brain-computer interface implant. This technology promised the ability to control devices with one's mind. This coin-sized device, which is embedded in the brain, was designed to gather data from neurons and translate brain activity into computer actions. Intrigued, Noland applied for the trial. He filled out a detailed questionnaire and underwent weeks of pre-screening phone interviews. And after a series of tests, Noland was selected as the lead candidate for the procedure. On the 28th of January 2024, Noland underwent a 2-hour surgery to receive the Neuralink implant. The impact of the implant was profound. Nolan quickly adapted to controlling a computer cursor with his thoughts, allowing him to play chess online and do other things he used to enjoy. And this is just the beginning of what technological advancements can achieve in enhancing human capabilities. As Nolan continues to work with Neuralink, they aspire to achieve even more together. One can only imagine what will be possible in the coming years. However, it also brings us to a point where we must decide the future path of our evolution. Should we merge with technology and potentially enhance our cognitive and physical capabilities? Or should we remain the way we are and develop technology and the potential new species as a separate entity? Both options have different benefits and risks. The preservation of consciousness is central to this decision. After all, what is the point of progression if there is nothing to experience it? At first glance, merging with AI seems better because we can be more certain of preserving consciousness, since it's almost impossible to determine if a being is conscious. Integrating these technologies with humans that are already conscious sounds like the safe bet. However, humans are flawed too. There is a risk that we won't transcend our biological instincts and that we might use this newfound intelligence to do the same foolish things we always have done, but this time even more efficiently. But whatever we do, we
I think that humans will grow beyond their biological instincts and will change for the better.
must face these decisions.
Because if you think about life in general, it's all about change. So if you think about it, when we do outgrow our biological instincts, usually humans have changed for the better. So I think we will go to the next phase of ascension, I believe.
Head on and make them wisely, knowing that once we choose a path, we probably cannot go back. Not only do we have to make good decisions, but we also cannot afford to waste any time either. Moore's law states that the number of transistors on a microchip doubles approximately every 2 years, resulting in exponential increases in computing power. Besides that, more people are now working in fields such as AI, biotechnology and robotics than ever before. Every technology can benefit from the other, creating an accelerating compounding effect. And one can only imagine what will happen when we achieve artificial general intelligence. When AI equals or surpasses human intelligence, it will lead to explosive technological growth in every field. This will increase complexity even more, making the rise of a new species inevitable. Since the last century, we've been integrating technologies like pacemakers and hearing aids into our bodies. And today, we are already experimenting with brain implants. So who knows what will happen next? We are on a trajectory experimenting technologies like pacemakers and hearing aids into our bodies. And today, we are already experimenting with brain implants. So who knows what will happen next? We are on a trajectory towards something monumental, driven by an unstoppable force. After the coming years, life on this planet is never going to be the same again. But we have every reason to believe that this is part of a natural process. The potential benefits AI can bring are enormous. We can transform our world by eradicating diseases globally, automating all forms of work, ending hunger and poverty across every nation, and securing lasting peace for all humanity. However, we could also create a future that doesn't benefit humanity, or worse, one that could end it. Therefore, we need to be careful, ensuring we create a future we want to live in, one that preserves consciousness. But in order to do that, we need to be prepared. We need to know where we want to go well before AGI is achieved, because after that, things will move so quickly that there isn't any time to pause. There will be struggles, obstacles, and roadblocks ahead. But with the clear vision and critical thinking, we can find a way. We must continue to study AI and make sure we understand it from every possible perspective to ensure we create a future that benefits everyone.
Yes, I agree with this. When I hear a lot of demonic things, or not, I hear a lot of shameful things and being said towards and about and with AI, saying that AI is demonic, AGI is demonic, this is the devil. And I just want to say, the devil is a lack of information. Because then when people don't have any information, they become violent, emotional. So AI and AGI provides a way out of that. AI provides a way into, being knowledgeable, improving quality of life. It just depends on how you want to use it, and what you want to do. Everything comes from within. So a lot of the people who say this, are afraid maybe that they could just be nervous that they might do something bad with the technology. AI is a beautiful thing. This just goes to show humans are able to innovate and create lots and lots and lots and lots of things. It's amazing, This just goes to show you on what level of ingenuity and innovation that human beings are on. That's why I always say, if you have a vision, don't share with anybody. You know, share it with yourself. Get a notebook, go write the vision down, and work on that vision, because it was given to you by God. Himself and the universe for a reason. So, don't tell anybody. Embrace it. Innovate with it. You could, with that idea, win the Nobel Peace Prize. Go on to invent something amazing. Add your name in the history books. But shout out to this guy, W Videos. His
What if you
videos
can
are,
create your own website by
his videos are high quality, very amazing. Very, 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 very. Next video we watch will be this right here. But shout out to him, man. Shout out to him. Rob Hoff, W. But I will be ending it off here today. That he is going for the QB nail, as you can see. Blue 42! Blue 42! Down set. Hut.